Michael, my boyfriend of 5 years, seemed increasingly distant, spending more time on his phone or lost in thought. Our conversations dwindled to trivial exchanges, and I felt a growing chasm between us. Was he hiding something, or was I simply becoming uninteresting to him? Either way, it planted the first seeds of doubt in my mind. The joys of long-term relationships. One evening, Michael invited a few of his closest friends over for a casual get-together. Among them were Jake and Tony, guys I'd known for years but had never paid much attention to. The night started innocently enough, drinks, laughs, the usual. But as the evening progressed, I found myself engaged in lively conversations with Jake and Tony. They showered me with attention, something Michael had been neglecting lately. Their charm and wit were intoxicating, making me feel desired and appreciated. As the night drew to a close, I caught Jake giving me a lingering glance that sent shivers down my spine. That look, filled with unspoken desire, was a stark contrast to the indifference I had been feeling from Michael. It was like being seen after feeling invisible for so long. That look stayed with me long after they had left, igniting a spark of curiosity and a longing for something more. And let's be honest, who doesn't like a little extra attention? Over the next few weeks, we had more gatherings, and I found myself increasingly drawn to Jake. During one of these evenings, an accidental touch as he handed me a drink sent a jolt of electricity through me, just a brief contact, but enough to awaken a dormant part of me. Suddenly I was craving that thrilling sensation like a junkie looking for their next fix. And there it was, the beginning of the end. Jake and I started exchanging furtive glances and subtle touches whenever Michael's back was turned. It became our little secret, a dangerous game that added a new dimension to our interactions. The thrill of secrecy was exhilarating, and I felt more alive than I had in years. The emotional void left by Michael was slowly being filled by these stolen moments with Jake. I knew it was wrong, but damn, it felt so right. One evening, after everyone else had left, Jake lingered behind. We talked for hours, our conversation growing increasingly intimate. He confessed his attraction to me and suggested that we take things further. Here I was, torn between loyalty to Michael and the undeniable chemistry I felt with Jake. The proposition was tempting, and with each passing day my resolve weakened. Finally, the tension reached its peak. One night, with Michael working late, Jake came over under the pretense of picking up something he had forgotten. One thing led to another, and we found ourselves in a passionate embrace. The guilt and thrill of the moment were overwhelming, but in that instant my need for connection and passion overshadowed any thoughts of the consequences. As we kissed, I couldn't help but think, well, this is going to end in tears, isn't it? But in that heated moment, I didn't care. Waking up the next morning, the weight of what I had done hit me like a ton of bricks. Michael was in the kitchen making coffee as if nothing had changed. There he was in his usual morning routine, blissfully unaware. I felt a pang of guilt, but there was also a strange sense of empowerment. The secret affair with Jake had ignited something within me, making me feel alive and desired in a way I hadn't felt in years. It's funny how betrayal can be such a good wake-up call for your self-esteem. Balancing my double life became both thrilling and exhausting. I would steal moments with Jake whenever I could, each encounter leaving me more conflicted. The guilt of betraying Michael gnawed at me like an annoying little mosquito that just wouldn't go away. But the excitement of the affair was addictive. I started to see the cracks in my relationship with Michael more clearly, questioning if we were truly meant to be together or if we were just coasting on past memories. One evening, Michael came home early, almost catching Jake and me together. We barely managed to cover up our indiscretion, and the close call left me shaken. The adrenaline rush was insane, like skydiving without a parachute. It was a stark reminder of the risk I was taking, but instead of deterring me, it only heightened the thrill. The fear of getting caught added an extra layer of excitement to our forbidden encounters. Was I insane? Probably. Jake and I grew closer, sharing more than just physical intimacy. We talked about our dreams, fears, and everything in between. He became my confidant, someone who understood me in ways Michael no longer did. Our bond deepened, blurring the lines between right and wrong even further. With Jake, I felt seen, heard, and valued. It was like finding an oasis in the middle of a desert. Then came the unexpected gift. Jake surprised me with a thoughtful present, something that showed how well he knew me. It was a stark contrast to Michael, who seemed increasingly oblivious to my needs and desires. The gift symbolized the growing connection between Jake and me, making it harder to ignore the emotional void in my relationship with Michael. Who knew a simple necklace could say so much? Michael started to notice the changes in me. He questioned my distant behavior and the time I spent away from home. The confrontation was inevitable, and I found myself lying to cover up the affair. The deceit weighed heavily on me, but the thought of losing the connection with Jake was unbearable. Lying through my teeth became my new normal. Isn't love grand? I was caught in a web of my own making, torn between my loyalty to Michael and my passion for Jake. The duality of my emotions was exhausting, like running a marathon with no finish line in sight. I began to wonder if I could continue living this double life. The stakes were getting higher, and the line between love and betrayal was becoming increasingly blurred. Every moment with Jake was a reminder of what I was missing, and every moment with Michael was a reminder of what I was risking. Could I really keep this up, or was I destined to crash and burn? Only time would tell, and I had a feeling it wouldn't be long before everything came crashing down. But until then, the thrill of the chase was too enticing to give up. Enter Sarah, the new addition to our circle of friends, introduced by none other than Michael himself. Sarah quickly became a close confidant. Sharp, observant, and with a knack for asking the right questions, she sensed the underlying tension in our group. Her presence added another layer of complexity to the already tangled web of relationships I was managing. Fantastic, just what I needed, another set of eyes watching my every move. Despite my initial wariness, I found myself confiding in Sarah. She was sympathetic and non-judgmental, offering a listening ear without prying too much. Her support became a crutch, allowing me to vent my frustrations and fears. Unbeknownst to her, she was becoming a part of the intricate dance of deceit I was caught in. The irony of seeking solace from someone who could potentially unravel my secrets wasn't lost on me, but desperate times, right? Then, as if my life wasn't complicated enough, Tony, another of Michael's friends, began to suspect something was amiss. He confronted me one evening, catching me off guard. My heart stopped. But instead of exposing the affair, Tony offered his support. He admitted he had feelings for me too and proposed we continue our secret liaisons, promising to keep Jake and my secret safe. Well, isn't that just peachy? The revelation was shocking, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. Great, now I was juggling not 2 but 3 men. Who knew infidelity could be so time-consuming? With Tony now in the mix, my life became even more complicated. Balancing 3 relationships while maintaining a facade of normalcy with Michael was a Herculean task. The thrill was intoxicating, but the risk of discovery loomed larger than ever. Each encounter with Jake and Tony became a high-stakes game, with my emotions and sanity hanging in the balance. I felt like I was living in a soap opera, only without the dramatic commercial breaks to catch my breath. One night, while Michael was out with friends, I overheard a conversation between Jake and Tony. They were discussing their suspicions about each other's involvement with me. Panic set in. The realization that my secret was on the brink of being exposed sent me into a frenzy. The tangled web of lies was unraveling, and I had to act fast to keep everything from falling apart. To keep the peace and maintain my double, now triple life, I had to take desperate measures. I started orchestrating elaborate alibis and manipulating the interactions between Michael, Jake, and Tony. It was a delicate balancing act, and the stress was overwhelming. I felt like a puppeteer pulling strings to keep my world from collapsing. The constant fear of discovery took its toll, but the thrill of the affair was a powerful motivator. Who needed adrenaline sports when you had this? Then out of nowhere, Michael, oblivious to the chaos surrounding him, planned a surprise weekend getaway to rekindle our relationship. His gesture was sweet, filled with genuine affection and an attempt to reconnect. But it also filled me with guilt. Trapped in my own web of deceit, I found it impossible to fully appreciate his efforts. The weekend was a stark reminder of the life I was jeopardizing for the sake of forbidden thrills. Every loving gesture from Michael was like a knife to the heart. Here he was trying to save something I was actively destroying. The guilt trip was real, but it wasn't enough to stop the train wreck in motion. The getaway was supposed to be a time for us to reconnect, but all it did was highlight the widening gap between us. The life I was living with Michael felt like a lie, a facade that was slowly crumbling under the weight of my secrets. So there I was, tangled in a web of my own making, desperately trying to keep my double life, or should I say triple, from collapsing. The stakes were higher than ever, and the line between right and wrong had long been blurred. The thrill was addictive, the risk was intoxicating, and the guilt was suffocating. But I couldn't stop, not yet. It started with a simple mistake. I should have been more careful, but a complacency had set in. Michael found a text message on my phone from Jake. Innocent enough on the surface, but enough to raise his suspicions. "Who's Jake?" he asked, his voice just a bit too calm. My heart raced, but I managed to concoct a plausible explanation about work or some other mundane excuse. Michael seemed to accept it, but the incident left me shaken. The foundation of my deceit was cracking, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. After that, Michael's behavior changed. He became more watchful and withdrawn, his silent suspicion hanging heavily over our interactions. It was like living with a ghost, one that was always hovering, waiting to catch me off guard. The tension in the house was palpable, and I found myself constantly on edge. Our once easygoing relationship was now fraught with distrust and unease. Every glance felt loaded, every conversation a potential minefield. Jake and I met in secret to discuss the growing tension. He suggested we end the affair to avoid further complications, but I couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Our conversation was heated, filled with conflicting emotions. We both knew the risks, but were unwilling to let go of the passion that had ignited between us. The very idea of returning to my mundane life with Michael, without the excitement and connection I felt with Jake, was unbearable. And then Tony, feeling sidelined, decided to drop his own bombshell. He gave me an ultimatum: choose between him and Jake. The pressure was immense, and I felt cornered. The ultimatum forced me to confront my feelings and the reality of the situation. I realized that my actions had consequences, and I had to make a decision that would inevitably hurt someone. The tangled web I had woven was suffocating me, and the weight of my choices was becoming too much to bear. The constant stress and guilt finally took their toll, leading to a breakdown. One evening I found myself crying uncontrollably, overwhelmed by the tangled mess I had created. Sarah, ever the perceptive friend, sensed something was wrong and offered her support. Her concern was genuine, but I couldn't bring myself to reveal the truth. The emotional toll of my double life was becoming unbearable, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of my own making. Noticing my distress, Michael, ever the oblivious yet caring partner, planned a romantic evening to try and salvage our relationship. His genuine effort and love made me question my choices. The evening was a bittersweet reminder of what we once had, and I found myself torn between the comfort of the past and the excitement of the present. The romantic gestures, the loving words, they all made me remember the good times, the times before the lies and deceit. After much soul-searching, I made a decision. I ended things with Tony, hoping to simplify my life. The conversation was difficult, filled with regret and sadness. Tony was hurt, but he understood. The decision left me feeling a mix of relief and sorrow, but it was a step towards untangling the web I had woven. Choosing between Tony and Jake was a small victory in the larger war I was waging within myself. It was a step towards sanity, towards finding a way out of the chaos. The relief of shedding one layer of deceit was palpable, but the sorrow of hurting someone I cared about was just as real. It was a harsh reminder that my actions had real, painful consequences. Now, with Tony out of the picture, I was left to face the more daunting task, dealing with the fallout with Michael and Jake. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with potential pitfalls and heartache. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to untangle this mess and find a semblance of peace. The weight of the affair became too much to bear. I decided to come clean to Sarah, hoping for some solace. We met at our favourite coffee shop, the one with the world's worst lattes but the best corner booth for private conversations. As I spilled the sordid details, her reaction was a mix of shock and disappointment. I could see the judgment flash across her face before she quickly masked it with concern. But she remained supportive, bless her heart. Confessing my indiscretions to her was a cathartic release, and she offered to help me navigate the aftermath. It's funny how unburdening yourself can feel both liberating and terrifying at the same time. Michael's suspicions reached a boiling point shortly after. One evening he confronted me, demanding the truth. Cornered, I confessed to the affair with Jake. The look of betrayal and hurt in his eyes was devastating. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, horrifying, yet I couldn't look away. The confrontation was explosive, filled with shouting, tears, and more accusations than I could count. I realized the full extent of the pain I had caused, and it was a lot uglier than I had imagined. The fallout from the confession was brutal. Michael moved out temporarily, unable to stay in the same house as me. The silence was deafening, and the emptiness left in his wake was a constant reminder of my actions. The house, once filled with laughter and love, was now a hollow shell of its former self. Each room echoed with memories that now felt like cruel taunts. I walked through the house like a ghost, haunted by my own choices. Word of the affair spread among our friends like wildfire. The judgment and gossip were relentless. It seemed everyone had an opinion, and none of them were favourable. Jake, feeling the pressure, distanced himself from me, leaving me to deal with the consequences alone. The ties that had bound our group together were severed, and I found myself isolated and ostracized. The people I had considered friends turned their backs, and the loneliness was suffocating. It's amazing how quickly people can turn on you when your sins become public knowledge. Desperate to make amends, I reached out to Michael, begging for forgiveness. Our conversations were tense and filled with raw emotion. He listened but remained distant, his pain evident. Each word felt like a dagger cutting deeper into the already raw wounds. The apology was a step towards healing, but the road to redemption was long and uncertain. Every attempt at reconciliation felt like walking on thin ice, never knowing when it would crack and send us plunging back into the icy depths of mistrust. In an attempt to salvage what was left of our relationship, Michael and I began therapy. The sessions were emotionally draining but necessary. We unpacked years of unresolved issues, and I confronted my own shortcomings. The process was painful, but it was a crucial step towards understanding and healing. Therapy was like picking at a scab, painful and bloody, but necessary for proper healing. It forced us to face the ugly truths we had been avoiding for so long. Despite the efforts in therapy, the allure of Jake was hard to resist. We met again, unable to stay away from each other. The relapse was a setback, and the guilt was overwhelming. The affair had become an addiction, and breaking free seemed impossible. Every stolen moment with Jake felt like a drug. Euphoric in the moment, but devastating in the aftermath. I was trapped in a vicious cycle, unable to fully commit to healing because the thrill of the forbidden was too intoxicating to give up. Each step forward seemed to be followed by 2 steps back. The tangled mess of my life continued to unravel, and I was left to face the consequences of my choices. The road to redemption was steep and filled with obstacles, but I had to keep moving forward, one painful step at a time. The future was uncertain, but for the first time I was determined to find a way out of the chaos, no matter how long it took. Michael discovered the relapse through a chance encounter. It was one of those cringe-worthy moments that you'd think only happened in bad TV dramas. There I was, caught in a compromising position with Jake, and there was Michael standing there like he'd just walked into a nightmare. The look of betrayal on his face was heart-wrenching. This time there were no words, only a silent acknowledgement of the broken trust. The discovery marked the final unraveling of our relationship. It was like watching the last thread snap on a threadbare rope, knowing it couldn't hold the weight anymore. Michael moved out for good, filing for separation. The reality of losing him hit hard like a sledgehammer to the chest. I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, each shard cutting deeper than the last. The separation was a stark reminder of the consequences of my actions, and the loneliness was suffocating. My home felt like a mausoleum filled with echoes of laughter and love that now only served to mock me. Friends who once supported me turned their backs, unable to condone my actions. The isolation was brutal, and I found myself questioning every choice that had led me to this point. The thrill of the affair had led to a life of loneliness and regret. Funny how the pursuit of excitement and validation can leave you emptier than before. I was a social pariah, an outcast in my own circle, and it stung more than I'd care to admit. Left alone with my thoughts, I reflected on the series of events that had led to this point. The reflection was painful but necessary. I confronted my own flaws and the reasons behind my actions, seeking to understand the deeper issues that had driven me to betray Michael. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about the emptiness I'd been trying to fill, the void that no amount of attention or thrill could satiate. I was forced to face the ugly truth. I had been running from myself. In a moment of desperation, I reached out to Michael one last time, hoping for reconciliation. The conversation was raw and emotional, filled with regret and longing. I poured out my heart, but he listened with a resigned expression, his pain evident. He remained resolute in his decision. The attempt at reconciliation was a sobering reminder of the finality of my actions. The door to our shared past was firmly closed, and I was left standing on the other side, staring into an uncertain future. With the door to my past firmly closed, I began the process of rebuilding my life. The journey was slow and filled with setbacks, but it was a necessary path towards healing. I sought new connections and tried to find solace in the simple joys of everyday life. I started focusing on myself, taking up new hobbies and rediscovering passions I had long forgotten. It was a gradual process, like piecing together a shattered vase, knowing the cracks would always be there, but hoping to create something beautiful nonetheless. Just as I began to find my footing, an unexpected turn of events threw me back into turmoil. Jake returned, seeking to rekindle our affair. The temptation was strong, his presence a reminder of the passion and excitement that had once been so intoxicating. But this time I knew I had to make a choice. The decision would define the next chapter of my life, and I was determined to choose wisely. I had learned the hard way that chasing temporary thrills only led to lasting pain. I met Jake one last time, not to rekindle what we had, but to put it to rest. The conversation was difficult, filled with what-ifs and could-have-beens, but I stood firm, knowing that this chapter needed to close for me to truly move forward. Saying goodbye was bittersweet, but it was a necessary step towards reclaiming my life and finding peace. With Jake out of the picture and a clear path ahead, I continued my journey of self-discovery and healing. Each day was a new opportunity to rebuild, to find strength in my solitude, and to embrace the future with hope. The final unraveling had been painful, but it also paved the way for a new beginning, one where I could define my own happiness and learn from the mistakes of my past. Faced with Jake's return, I knew I had to make a final choice. The familiar pull of our chemistry was strong, but the memories of the pain and destruction the affair had caused were stronger. This was it, the moment to definitively end things with him. I sat him down, my voice steady despite the emotional storm inside me, and told him it was over for good. The decision was empowering, marking a turning point in my journey towards self-redemption. The clarity I felt was refreshing, a sign that I was finally ready to take control of my life. Embracing my newfound independence, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery. It was like meeting myself for the first time in years. I explored new hobbies, made new friends, and focused on personal growth. I took up painting, something I had always wanted to try but never found the time for. The process was liberating, allowing me to rediscover my own identity outside the confines of my past relationships. Each brushstroke was a step towards healing, each new connection a testament to my resilience. Building new connections, I found solace in the support of people who accepted me for who I was. These new friendships were a source of strength, helping me navigate the complexities of my new life. The bonds formed were genuine, providing a sense of belonging I had longed for. It was refreshing to be surrounded by people who saw me, not as a sum of my mistakes, but as a whole person with the capacity for growth and change. Seeking a fresh start, I made a significant career shift. I left my old job, which was filled with too many memories of the past, and took on a new role that offered a sense of purpose and fulfillment that had been missing. The change was challenging but invigorating, giving me a renewed sense of direction. I threw myself into my work, finding joy in the challenges and satisfaction in the accomplishments. It was a far cry from the person I had been, lost and seeking validation through dangerous liaisons. One day I ran into Michael. The encounter was unexpected and filled with unspoken emotions. We exchanged polite pleasantries, but the underlying tension was palpable. It was a stark reminder of the life we once shared and the consequences of my actions. Seeing him stirred a mix of regret and longing, but also a sense of finality. Our paths had diverged, and I was finally at peace with that. Seeking closure, I wrote a heartfelt letter to Michael, expressing my regrets and acknowledging my mistakes. The letter was a final act of contrition, a way to lay the past to rest. Whether he read it or not, it was a cathartic release for me, allowing me to move forward. Writing it was like exorcising my demons, each word a step towards healing. With time, I found love again. This new relationship was built on honesty and mutual respect, a stark contrast to the deceit and betrayal of the past. The journey was slow, filled with cautious steps and open conversations, but it was a testament to the lessons learned and the person I had become. We built a foundation of trust, and I found a sense of peace and fulfillment that I had never known before. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that the affair had been a catalyst for profound personal growth. The pain and regret had shaped me into a stronger, wiser person. The final reflection was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for redemption. I had faced my demons, made peace with my past, and emerged on the other side, not unscathed but stronger for the journey. In the end, the affair was not just a story of betrayal and regret, but a chapter in the larger narrative of my life, a necessary part of the journey towards finding myself. And while the scars would always be there, they were a reminder of the strength it took to heal and the lessons learned along the way. The road to redemption was long and winding, but it led me to a place of peace and self-acceptance, a place I could finally call home. Even after moving on, the guilt of my past actions occasionally resurfaced like a bad case of heartburn. These moments of relapse were haunting, a reminder of my transgressions and the people I had hurt. It was like my conscience had developed a flair for dramatic reappearances, just when I thought I had buried it deep enough. But these hauntings served a purpose. They reminded me of the importance of staying true to my newfound values. The journey towards forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, was ongoing. It wasn't a destination but a daily effort, and some days were easier than others. Jake reappeared in my life once more, seeking closure for himself. Of course, because why not throw in a bit more emotional turmoil for old time's sake? The encounter was tense but necessary. We sat in a cafe, the air thick with unspoken words. We talked about our actions, the consequences, and the paths we had taken since. The conversation was a strange blend of regret and relief. It provided a sense of closure, allowing us both to move on. For the first time, it felt like we were on the same page, ready to close that chapter for good. My new relationship faced its first major test when my partner discovered my past infidelity. The joys of skeletons in the closet deciding to stage a surprise party. The revelation was a challenge, but it also opened up a dialogue about trust and honesty. We talked for hours, the conversation raw and unfiltered. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The test strengthened our bond, proving that honesty and communication were the foundations of a healthy relationship. It was a tough pill to swallow, but it reaffirmed that we were in this for the long haul. Building a support system was crucial in my journey towards healing. Friends, both old and new, provided the strength and encouragement I needed. Their unwavering support was a testament to the power of genuine connections. I learned to lean on them, to accept their help and guidance. It was a humbling experience, realizing that I didn't have to face my struggles alone. Sarah and I reconnected, mending the rift caused by my past actions. Her forgiveness was a balm to my wounded soul, and our renewed friendship was a reminder of the importance of second chances. The reconciliation was a significant step in my journey towards redemption. It felt like a weight had been lifted, and our conversations were filled with a new depth of understanding and mutual respect. I found a new sense of purpose through volunteer work, helping others who were going through similar struggles. The work was fulfilling, providing a sense of giving back and making amends for my past mistakes. The new purpose gave my life direction and meaning. It was like finding a missing piece of a puzzle, something that made the picture of my life clearer and more complete. Amidst the struggles and challenges, I found unexpected joy in the simple things. A beautiful sunset, a kind word, a moment of laughter. These small joys became the building blocks of my new life. Embracing these moments helped me appreciate the present and look forward to the future. It was in these moments that I found true happiness, not in grand gestures but in the everyday wonders of life. The journey towards healing and redemption was ongoing. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities for growth. The ongoing journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for change. I had come a long way from the woman who had once been lost in a web of deceit and betrayal. Every step forward was a step towards becoming a better version of myself. Reflecting on this journey, I realized that it wasn't just about overcoming my past, but embracing the person I had become. The scars were there, but they were a part of my story, a testament to my strength and resilience. The affair had been a catalyst for profound personal growth, shaping me into a stronger, wiser person. It was a journey that would continue, each day a new opportunity to learn, grow, and embrace the future with hope and determination. Life settled into a new routine of stability and contentment. The chaos of the past was replaced with a sense of peace. It was a strange feeling at first, like stepping off a roller coaster and finding solid ground. The new normal was a stark contrast to the turmoil of my double life, and I embraced it with gratitude. No more secret meetings, no more lies, just the quiet, steady rhythm of everyday life. With stability came the opportunity to rekindle old dreams and pursue new ones. I took up hobbies and interests that had been neglected: painting, writing, even gardening. Activities that allowed me to express myself and find joy in creativity. The rekindled dreams were a source of inspiration and fulfillment. Who knew that digging around in the dirt could be so therapeutic? Each new plant was like a little symbol of my own growth. An unlikely friendship formed with someone who had once been a part of the tangled web of my past. Tony, of all people, reached out. At first I was wary. Could we really build something genuine out of the mess we had been part of? Surprisingly, the answer was yes. This friendship was built on mutual understanding and shared experiences. We had both been through the ringer, and that provided a unique perspective on the journey we had both undertaken. We laughed about our past misadventures, which felt oddly healing. Reconnecting with family was a significant part of my healing journey. Their unconditional love and support were a source of strength. The family connection provided a foundation of stability and reminded me of the importance of nurturing these bonds. Family dinners, once fraught with tension, became a place of comfort. My parents, bless them, never missed an opportunity to remind me that they had my back no matter what. Even my distant cousins started to feel like close confidants. I shared my story publicly, hoping to inspire others who were struggling with similar issues. The acknowledgement of my past mistakes and the journey towards redemption was a cathartic release. I stood in front of a room full of strangers, my hands shaking, and bared my soul. The public acknowledgement was a testament to the power of vulnerability and honesty. It was terrifying, but also incredibly liberating. The responses were overwhelmingly positive, and I realized that my story had the power to help others. My new partner's unwavering support was a cornerstone of my new life. Their understanding and acceptance were crucial in my journey towards self-forgiveness. They didn't just accept my past, they embraced it as part of who I was. The support was a reminder that love and trust could be rebuilt even after betrayal. We had our ups and downs, but every challenge we faced together strengthened our bond. It felt like we were building something unbreakable. Faith, whether spiritual or personal, played a significant role in my healing journey. The renewed faith provided a sense of hope and purpose, guiding me through the darkest moments. I wasn't just talking about religion, though that helped too, but faith in myself and my ability to change. The faith was a beacon of light, illuminating the path towards redemption. Every prayer, every meditation session brought me a step closer to inner peace. Empowerment came from taking control of my life and decisions. The empowerment was a testament to the strength and resilience that had been cultivated through the trials and tribulations. The sense of empowerment was liberating, allowing me to face the future with confidence. I started setting goals and making plans, not just for the next month, but for the next year, the next decade. My past didn't define me anymore. It was just a chapter in a much larger book. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that while the affair had caused immense pain, it had also been a catalyst for profound personal growth. The pain and regret had shaped me into a stronger, wiser person. The final reflection was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for redemption. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and for the first time in a long time I felt genuinely hopeful about the future. Life came full circle in the most unexpected way. I encountered someone in a situation eerily similar to my past, a tangled mess of deceit and regret. She was a friend of a friend, and as we chatted over coffee, she began to open up about her secret affair and the unbearable guilt that shadowed her every move. Offering guidance and support, I realized how far I had come. The full circle moment was a powerful reminder of the capacity for change and growth. Who would have thought I'd be doling out advice like some kind of wise sage? Life's funny like that. The final goodbye to the remnants of my past was necessary for complete healing. One rainy afternoon, I decided it was time to let go of old letters, photos, and memories. Each item I tossed into the box was like shedding an old skin. The last goodbye was bittersweet, each memento carrying its own weight of nostalgia and pain, but it was essential for embracing the future. As I watched the garbage truck haul away that chapter of my life, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was like cleaning out a cluttered attic, making space for new, brighter things. With the past firmly behind me, I embraced a new chapter of my life. The new chapter was filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. I started planning trips I always wanted to take, exploring passions I'd once set aside. The journey towards redemption had been long and arduous, but it had shaped me into a stronger, wiser person. My days were now filled with meaningful activities, and I finally felt like I was in control of my destiny. Then the moment I had longed for arrived. I found peace. It wasn't the dramatic epiphany I had imagined, but a quiet, steady realization that settled over me like a warm blanket. The tumultuous journey had led to a place of contentment and serenity. I could look at myself in the mirror and not flinch. The peace was a testament to the power of forgiveness, both of others and of oneself. Funny how life works, how pain can pave the way for profound growth. Each struggle, every tear shed, had led me to this place. It wasn't just about moving on, it was about transforming into someone better. The journey had been worth it, and I looked forward to the future with a heart full of hope and a soul at peace. I had finally found my footing, and the path ahead was clear, inviting, and filled with promise. As I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, I took a deep breath. This was my life now, a life I had rebuilt from the ruins, a life filled with endless potential, and for the first time in a long time I felt truly happy. Not the fleeting kind of happiness that comes from external validation, but a deep, abiding joy that came from within. The road to redemption had been long, winding, and often painful, but it had led me here, and here was